Looking back on my GRAP review, I really didn't do the fanfic justice. So, I decided to start a new line of videos called GRAP Chronicles. This is where I take a look at certain aspects of the fanfic in better detail and hopefully give you a better idea of what it's actually about. With that being said, let's dive right in with the title team, Team GRAP. First up is Greta. Honestly, she's quite a fascinating person to be declared the leader. It's like the author casts a side character to be the lead. It's not that she lacks presence, far from it, it's the fact that she does not want to be the main character. Let me explain. Greta strives to get things done with the minimum of complications, which means combined with her tunnel vision she has from time to time, where she can only really concentrate on one thing, being declared the leader of Team GRAP, ushers in an era of "oh god why" screams that go through her head. Even better is her panic during the whole Rapture fight arc, which I will get to shortly. I actually find her to be more interesting in the leader role than either Jean or RWBY. Both of them had the advantages that they made friends quickly. I mean, Jean was a lovable goof and RWBY was destructive but all in all adorable. It also helped that RWBY had her sister along with her. Greta, however, is slower to get to that level. She has no friends or family with her, and hasn't really made friends most of her life. Not for lack of trying. Team GRAP have their moments of course, but they're not overly pally with each other. I mean, they've only just met. It's evolving more naturally than any series I've seen, to be honest. Greta is a very structured leader, creating schedules that dictate what she does and when, in order to ease her own burden. Again, minimum complications, this way she has something that dictates for her. Greta tends to think of her own troubles first. She's not maliciously selfish, let me make that clear. It comes off more as inexperience with dealing with people. There's a chapter in which the team go to a mall and witness a suicide bombing, being carried out by members of the Red Fang. Despite Huntsman being allowed to aid the police and Rapture wanting to help, Greta orders them all to leave and let the officers deal with it. In her head, they're still students, they can't get involved in something this big. Which really doesn't stop the protagonists of RWBY, but oh well. This kicks off Rapture being mad at the team and Greta debating with herself whether she had made the right decision or not. Greta does apologise, but she also admits that she doesn't fully understand why Rapture is mad, which makes the fight go further. At the end of the day, she comes off as the most compelling leader I've ever read in a RWBY fic. She struggles with the complications of being a leader, but also it helps her grow as a character. Up next we have Rapture. I said this before in my review of GRAP, but Rapture is Blake done right in my eyes. One of the few weaknesses of RWBY was that we never really saw much racism towards Faunus. I mean, sure it was Carnal, but he was a bully to everyone and viewed as a lowlife, while Roman was a villain anyway, so who cares? On top of that, Blake was able to hide her Faunus features very easily. Only Puma Man beat her by having retractable claws. Being a crocodile Faunus, her entire body is covered in scales, so she can't really hide that unless she has a buttload of paint, and that's hardly likely. Now, because of that, we actually see racism towards her much better than we do see with Blake. Hell, we actually see it. Seriously, everyone was really accepting of Blake. Not many... how to put this? Guards muster their breath, and people are visibly shaken when she actually walks into somewhere. They know that if she gets angry, she can do a lot of damage, and she's aware of what they think. As such, she tries to keep herself under control as much as possible. She doesn't want people thinking she's a monster. She's also sadly gotten used to people being scared of her. Considering the mess that the White Fang caused in this timeline, attitudes towards Faunus are much worse than they are in canon. She's also the heavy hitter of GRAP, but this doesn't mean she's stupid in any way. She's by no means in favour of the Red Fang's actions. If anything, she hates them more than the average person. Rapture finds the idea of Faunus unity to be a pile of crap so large that it eclipses the moon. I like how she isn't just constantly angry, she's just socially aware. She doesn't want people thinking of her as a dangerous creature, it's just something that happens. Going back to the fight arc, which is the first big arc of GRAP, you get the real sense of betrayal from her. She wasn't overly pally with her teammates, but she did establish a connection, which is why she was so heartbroken when they wouldn't let her investigate. Another thing I really enjoyed about Rapture's arc is she's not in the right. Nobody is. Nobody's in the right. They are teenagers, not adults, having an argument, so it's going to be awkward as hell and nobody's going to be in right or wrong. Royal Psycho also remembers to include one simple fact. Being angry is incredibly draining. That's probably why people are angry in bursts, at least in my experience. It's hard to be angry for that long. The Rapture fight goes on for a few days, her not speaking to any of her teammates. They ultimately all make up, of course. Rapture's reaction to her teammates trying to make it up to her tells us a lot, I think. You see, Greta knows that Rapture is a huge horror movie fan, so decides, okay, I'm going to rent us a horror movie, which is rated quite highly on the site she got it from. Trouble is, it was one of those, it's so bad it's good movies. So instead of it being excellent, it's a pile of trash. However, that doesn't stop Team GRAPE from really getting into the movie and riffing it. As such, I expect a spin-off of this fanfic called GRAPE Riffs. Aurora. I will admit Aurora hasn't had too much time to shine. She comes from a wealthy family, but her father is way better than Weiss's. You see, her father believes in doing a good job no matter what. This means, considering he got put in charge of making all the houses for the Faunus in low-budget areas, he did the best he could no matter what. He didn't go, oh, they're just Faunus. He went, yeah, I'm making it, so it's going to be damn good. But I'm not here to talk about Aurora's father. I could do that all day. I'm here to talk about Aurora. And there's a slight problem with that. As of this review, Aurora hasn't had too much time dedicated to her. The best moment she has is during the Rapture fight arc when she comes up with a plan to get Rapture to talk to her. Beat the crap out of her. It works. Aurora gets Rapture to agree that if Aurora wins the fight, Rapture has to sit down and talk to her team, which she does. Except this is the moment when you realise, yes, Aurora can be just as mad as her villain counterpart. Under all that dignified grace that ties her to Maleficent, who she's based on, is absolute insanity. Just like Maleficent, who she's based on. She'll probably get more time to shine in Volume 2. We'll just have to see. It's early days. And lastly, we have Peter. Peter reminds me a lot of Ren. Both are the most restrained characters in their stories, and both give off the vibe of having their fair share of demons. The big difference is that while Ren can be just as goofy as his teammates, Peter is just holding back the anger that might very well reduce his teammates and his enemies to powder. He's by far the strongest fighter on Team GRAPE, with his many daggers, his precise strikes, his ability to teleport, seriously Grim can barely hit him much less do any damage. He's also much like Pyro in another sense. He's harder to make friends with. I mean, you get the sense that he's also, like Greta, inexperienced with doing so, but it's more his personality rather than the environment he grew up in. He snaps at Greta during the whole Rapture fight and immediately beats himself up for not controlling his anger. Underneath that restraint and that anger is a guy who's kind of vain. I'm serious, Peter takes great pride in how he looks. From a devilish grin on his face when he manages to snag the bathroom first during the early days of GRAPE, to the look of pure horror when he realises someone else has used his makeup. Romantically, I could pair Peter up with almost every other character in the story. Barring Rapture, I've saved her for someone else. That's how much charm Peter has. I feel like if another writer had written this story, then Peter would have been our leader. But because Royal Psycho wrote it, Greta is. And as much as I like Peter, I'm very glad that Greta is. It makes a lovely contrast when the two actually do speak. You get this weird power balance between them. Not that he's actively trying to be the leader, but you get the idea that she has trouble with the confidence issue, and he's fine with it. He can masquerade confidence all he wants. With Greta being based on the Wicked Witch, Rapture being based on the Troll from Billy Goat's Gruff, Aurora, as I've mentioned, being based on Maleficent, and Peter being based on the Pied Piper, it means all of GRAPE are based on villains. Fittingly enough, I believe that if this was any other story, these characters would have become the villains in their older years. Greta comes from a terrible background, Peter is implied to have his own family woes to deal with, and Rapture could have become a lot worse than Adam is. Aurora may not have the background trouble, but let's face it, she's 5 seconds away from snapping given the right situation. I think the only thing saving them from going down a darker path is the fact that they're all on the same team. They help each other out with different issues. They complement each other quite well. And I'm sure a guy called Royal Psycho wouldn't be that cruel to his characters.